and we're going to get started. So I'm going to start out just by closing my eyes. I encourage you to do the same. You're not going to fall down when you're sitting. So I'm sitting in easy pose here. You can also do Padmasana, which is like a lotus. This is half lotus. But pick what's comfortable to you. Just close your eyes and start to bring your awareness away from the outside world. Bring the awareness to the body. And start out by thanking yourself for being here today. It's the evening. Maybe you had a long day. Maybe you have a long way to go. Thank yourself for making the time to be here. And begin to notice the breath. Breathing in through the nose. And also breathing out through the nose. Maybe put your hands on your belly and feel it rise on the inhale. Falling on the exhale. Rising on the inhale. Falling on the exhale. Rising on the inhale. Falling on the exhale. A couple notes about our breath as we sit here. There's a sound that you may have noticed that we make in yoga. It's almost as though the breathing is coming from the throat instead of the nose. It's called Ujjayi sound. It sounds a little bit like this. That's an exhale. On the inhale, it might sound like this. Although in yoga, we breathe with our mouth closed, so it sounds a little bit like this. I'm going to breathe out halfway with my mouth opened, and then when I'm halfway exhaled, I'll close the mouth, and hopefully you can still hear it through the audio of Facebook Live. So I'm going to take an inhale, exhaling. Same thing on the inhale. So take a couple breaths on your own and see if you can begin to make that sound. The purpose of that breath is to really help us to focus on the breath so that we're not distracted by the things around us. The thoughts in your head, the sounds around you. Try not to think about what you have to do next. Just simply focus on the sound of the breath. Good. And you can continue to keep your eyes closed. I often do practice yoga with my eyes closed. Recently, I've been practicing in the dark of my closet at home, safe from the sounds of my kids. Now, when you're ready, lift your hands up over your head for your first reach. Reaching up high. And begin to turn to the left side. Left hand comes behind your back. Right hand comes to your left knee. Using that right hand and left knee to press around and twisting to the left. And finally, my head is going to look over my left shoulder. On an inhale, arms overhead back to center. Exhale to the right side. Right arm behind the back, left hand to the right knee, pressing against the left knee, head looking over the right shoulder. Excellent. Inhale, arms overhead. And extend your legs out to both sides. I'm going to remove my pillow here. And just do a big straddle stretch as wide as you can. What I want you to do here is put your hands behind your back and press your hips forward. We really want to start to loosen up those inner thighs. They're probably pretty tight. Maybe you've been sitting on Zoom conference calls all day. And just use those hands behind you to press up and start to open up the chest. and exhaling. One more time. And exhale. And as you finish that exhale, I'm going to move my sandals out of the way, but begin to walk your fingers out in front of you. We're going for a straight back here, so if you feel yourself start to round over in the shoulders and the low back, try to straighten up, even if it means you raise up a little bit more, or even if you move your feet at a little bit more of a smaller angle. And just use those fingers as leverage to pull the back straight, to begin to pull the body towards the ground. With every exhale, sinking a little bit lower. Nice job. Good. And bring those feet together, rotating on your mat. Before we go too much further, I did want to remind you too, if you didn't see the notes at the start of Facebook Live or in the event, I don't have music going right now since we've got some background noise, and I just kind of like the sound of nature and quiet around me, but I did offer a Spotify music list, so feel free to take a quick break, flip over to Spotify, look for my accounts. I think it's El Trilly. I put it in the event information, but you can more than welcome to check out my Spotify. Tranquil Yoga is the name of that list. Okay, so we're going to roll over our knees here. I want to come up to standing. We're going to do one more breathing exercise. This one is a little bit, it's designed to get a little bit more energy flowing. It's going to sound like crashing waves. So there's really no graceful way to do this, but it's going to look something like this. Our hands are going to go over our head, and you're going to give a big exhale and come down to the ground and just swoop your arms and then sweep back overhead on the inhale. But on the exhale, really breathe out everything as fast as you can, and this time breathe with the mouth open. So it's going to sound like this. So press it out and then take that big inhale on the way back up. So we're going to do a couple rounds of those again to just get that energy moving in the body. Do be mindful if you have high or low blood pressure or you tend to get dizzy or lightheaded. Just be very careful and mindful and take whatever accommodations you may need to. All right, so it looks like this. Standing in Tadasana, a nice, straight, powerful pose. Hands come overhead on the inhale. On the exhale, waves crash down. Exhale. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale. Inhale up. Exhale, breathe out. Just go through a couple more cycles of these, really just forcing all of that energy out the body as you sweep down to the floor. Let's do one more. Nice, very good. All right, arms back down. Rest a minute here in Tadasana. You might feel a little bit lightheaded, so just regain that breath. My eyes are closed. Bring that breathing back to normal. Maybe you're inhaling for 4 counts and exhaling for 4 counts, whatever works for you. Awesome job. All right, hopefully you're feeling warmed up just a little bit. Your breathing is in yoga mode, and let's get started. Okay, so we're going to stretch our arms overhead. Check that your weight is centered evenly through the toes and the heels. Your arms are lifted overhead, but our shoulders are rolled down and back so that they're not up in our ears like this. They're down and back. Good. And on your inhale, engage your glutes to help balance and begin to raise up on your toes. Squeezing those ankles together. Find a spot right in front of you and gaze at it. Helps you balance. And keep breathing even though you're balancing here. Pushing up as high as you can through those toes. And on your exhale, coming back down to your heels. and taking your left hand to grab your right wrist and pull those arms over to the left side. Your hips will shift out to the right, and then the head turns up to the ceiling towards the right for a side bend. Inhaling back to center, right hand takes the left wrist, pulling over towards the right, hips going to the left, neck turning up to the left as well. Side bend. Inhaling back to center, arms up, maybe you take a slight back bend, and then on your exhale, hands come slicing down the front into your first forward fold. So in forward folds, I like to bend my knees and rest my stomach on my thighs. Especially early in class when your hamstrings are still pretty tight. It's a-okay to have a bend here. I actually recommend it. And then over time you can begin to straighten the legs throughout your practice. But I always protect my spine by keeping my stomach as close as possible to my legs. So bend those legs, come on down to seated. Okay, also take a water break anytime. I keep mine right here by the mat. Okay, let's do a little bit of ab engagement because your abs need to be engaged throughout the rest of the class. So the way I want to teach this is I want you to go down to Shavasana. That's laying on your back. I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'm going to come back to sitting. So Shavasana, you're laying on your back, totally relaxed. Stay there while I come up and narrate a little bit here. What I want you to do is focus on tightening your abs. Now there's two ways to do this. You might think, okay, I'm going to crunch my abs up, and that tends to be what we do because we're always doing crunches, it seems like. But instead, I want you to change your mindset. What I want you to try to do is flatten your abs. And what you're going to feel is more engagement on the side and then in the lower abdominal, getting closer to the crease of your legs. So just hold that a minute, see if you can feel the difference between crunching your abs, where you're, like you're trying to show off your six-pack, versus flattening your abs. We're aiming towards the flat abs. So I'll lay back with you guys. We'll do that just 1 or 2 times. You can bend your legs to relieve pressure on the back. Hopefully you can see me here on the floor. And just engage those abs and try to flatten it out on the floor. Good. Do it one more time. Nice. Now come up on your elbows here. You're also welcome to do boat pose up high. That's a little bit, a lot of pressure for me on my tailbone, so I'm actually going to go back to my elbows, but take your pick and just begin to lift your legs here. You want to watch that your back is not arching like that. You want your pelvic bone tucked under, and focus on those flat abs that we just engaged on the floor. You can also do one leg at a time if that's too intense. We're really here just waking up the abs, teaching them to engage by bracing and flattening out. Good. One more inhale. Awesome. Let's roll over onto your knees. We're going to warm up the wrists. I'm going to rotate my hands outwards like this so that my pinkies are together, and then my palms will go flat on the floor. And you can sit up a little bit onto your knees if that helps, but just whatever feels comfortable for your wrists. And then next you'll just flip them over so that your thumbs are now together and the top of my hands will go on the mat. Good. Clasp them together, roll them around a little bit. And you can probably see right now that I'm up on my toes and I'm sitting on my toes. It's going to be an additional toe stretch. So I'm going to stay here while I do that, and we're going to stretch out our shoulders. So I'm going to turn around backwards and show you what it looks like, and then I'll come back forward and narrate. But the first thing you're gonna do is I'm gonna take my left hand and I'm gonna pat my back, but I'm using the top of my hand like this, okay? Then I take my right hand behind my head and I try to touch. So as I come back forward here, I'm also gonna sit back on my heels so I continue stretching my toes. If you cannot reach your hands, just grab whatever you can on your shirt. You can use a towel here as well, like this. And you just use that towel or your shirt or whatever you can grab to pull the hands together. And if you've got a real tight grasp here because you have shoulder flexibility, use that head and push the shoulder back a little bit more. Nice. Right arm comes down behind your back. Left arm comes up overhead so that you're switching your posture. If your toes are screaming at you, feel free to come down to the tops of your feet. But I really love to stay on my toes. Not that I'm wearing heels all around the house these days with our quarantine, but if you are someone who does wear heels or boots or uncomfortable shoes, particularly high ones, this stretch is really great to counter that. Great, release that, maybe roll your shoulders back once, roll your shoulders forward. And now come on down to the tops of your feet and put your arms out in front of you. We're gonna lift up off our heels about 2 inches. So hopefully I'm pretty close here. This is a really intense engagement of the thighs. So come on up off your mat. Watch your posture that you're not tilting. Bring that pelvis underneath. Good. Arms lift overhead. Intensifies the stretch. Back forward. Come down a little lower if you lifted. And back down to your feet. Good. Take a quick breath. We're going to do that one more time. On your inhale, lifting up. A couple inches above your feet. Inhale, arms go overhead. Exhale, behind your head. Inhale, overhead to prayer position. I'm looking up at the sky. Exhale, arms come down all the way to center. Good. Hopefully you woke up those quads just a little bit there. All right, coming up on those knees. I'm still in, down on my knees. Feet are turned over flat on the ground. Let's do a little bit of a back stretch. So I'm going to take my hands and put them on my lower back. And I'm just going to simply lift my chest. And I begin to bend backwards. Now, if you'd like to take Ustrasana camel pose, you can do so. I'll show you what that is real quickly. You're more than welcome to stay where you're at, simply lifting up the chest. This would be camel pose. I'm going to come up so I can talk a little bit more. And be mindful that your hands are not pressing your hips too far forward. That's not the point. They're really there just to kind of brace you a little bit. Good. On your exhale, roll down to child's pose, our first resting child's pose. So stay down in child's pose. I'll tell you a couple things about child's pose. It's a resting pose, but it's very active at the same time. If your arms are extended out in front of you, you're pushing away from the floor, pushing your sits bones back closer to your heels. Ideally, you want your sit bones to be touching your heels, but if you're not quite there yet, that's fine. Just continue to push back, and over time, you'll get closer and closer to the floor. One last inhale and exhale. Good. Roll up and come back to tabletop, which means all fours. We're going to do a couple cat-cow. So the way we'll do that is on an inhale, your stomach drops and your head raises up to the ceiling. So I've got a curvature in my spine here as my stomach is pointing down. And on the exhale, you push back with the arms, rounding out the upper and the lower, the upper and the mid-back, pressing everything away from the floor like a cat. Inhale into cow. Exhale into cat. Inhale, lift, exhale, push away. And do a couple of those on your own breath. You can even do a bit of a turn or a curve here, pushing side to side, some side circles. Good. Coming back to center, a quick note about shoulder posture here. You can kind of see how I'm doing like shoulder push-ups. Maybe just practice that a little bit to get awareness of what it feels like to sink into your shoulder, a neutral position, and then a rounded, fully pushed extension. We'll use different variations of that in our class today, so just play with that for a little bit. And then coming on back to center here, I'm going to raise, let me make sure I get the right side here. Yes, I'm going to raise my right hand and my right leg on an inhale, just like I would in cow. And on your exhale, bring the elbow to the knee, rounding out the spine, exhaling everything out. Inhale, extend and lift. Exhale, bringing it in together, elbow to knee. Inhale, extend. And stay here if you'd like and continue your breath, or reach around over your right side. Grab that left foot in the air for tiger pose. Now, here's where we use what we just learned on the shoulder. Watch that you're not collapsing into that shoulder. Press through. Next, engage the abs. Brace, flatten out the abs. And finally, lift with the back foot. One more inhale. Exhale, bring the hand and the foot back out to extension. Keep the foot lifted while you place the right hand on the ground. Bring the left foot to the side, keep it lifted. 1, 2, one more breath. Okay, bring it down to the ground. And from here, see if you, it's kind of hard to scoot on this floor, but see if you can press that left foot out a bit and come down to the ground if you'd like, but do whatever adjustment you need to make to really feel this on your left extended leg. And I have my toes and my knees pointed forward so that I can intensify the stretch on the inner thigh. Good. Inhaling, back up onto your palms, left leg comes in towards the right, and we're going to reverse sides or switch sides. So this time the right foot extends, the left arm extends forward. On your inhale, you're lifting up. On your exhale, knee to nose, knee to elbow. Inhale, extend. Exhale, bring it in. Inhale, extend. Exhale, together. One more inhale, extension, holding it here and breathing, or reaching around your left side to grab that right foot. Remembering here are 3 points, extending with the shoulder, holding in the abs, and then pulling up with that foot. One more inhale. Exhale, back to extension, one arm, one leg, left arm down, right leg comes out to the side, hold it and engage the glute med there. Bring it on down to the ground, stretch it out. Coming down to the ground onto your forearms, if that helps, stretching the inner thigh. Great, pressing back up onto your hands, right foot comes to center. We're going to push up, lifting our knees off the ground, kind of in a half plank. So on your inhale, you lift and hold that here, pressing through the shoulders. This is another time when you don't want to sink. I'm pressed through those shoulders. Last inhale. Exhale, come back down, pressing into child's pose. Good. Now this time, we're going to come out of child's pose, and we're going to keep our nose on the mat as you slide out to your belly. So it looks kind of like this. just come right on down to your belly. And hopefully your hands end up somewhere around your rib cage. We're going to go into locust pose. So actually, we'll go ahead and move our hands back by your legs. Palms can be facing the ground. And on your inhale, you're going to first engage your glutes, and the whole body lifts up off the mat. Legs are engaged together. Neck is in neutral position. Shoulder blades are squeezing together at the back, but they're down. Whole body engagement pose, locust. And on the inhale, feel the belly rise, the body rises. On the exhale, it might fall a little bit, but hold it up. One more inhale. Exhale, back down. Maybe your left ear goes to the mat to rest for a minute. Windshield wiper out your legs. On this next one, we will do half cobra or low cobra. So now you want your hands to come by your ribs. And you know you've got them in the right spot when you slide them down your body and your palms begin to lift. So when you get to that spot, squeeze your shoulder blades together, your elbows point to the ceiling, engaging your glutes as you prepare. And on your inhale, you're going to lift up just the upper body so the lower body stays on the mat this time. And again, you know you've got this right because I can lift my hands up off the floor and my body more or less stays. One more inhale. Exhale down to the mat. Right ear touches the mat this time as you rest. Good. Chin comes back to neutral. This time we're going to push up into up dog. If up dog is not part of your practice, you can stay where you're at in half cobra. So exhaling everything out. On your inhale, engage the glutes, beginning to peel the upper body off the mat. Then the pelvis and the legs and the thighs also lift. And the entire body is off the mat except for the tops of my foot. My shoulders are not crunching, they're extended, pressing away from the floor. My gaze is neutral to slightly lifted. Good. On the exhale, pressing back into tabletop, flipping the feet, and pushing back into downward dog. I'm going to make sure I get back on camera here. So first down dog of the day. I'm pressing again away from the floor, shifting that weight back into my heels. Hips are lifting up toward the ceiling as though I had a string tied to my hips and someone were lifting it up high. Pedal out your feet, left, right. Come back to your all fours, tabletop position. Pushing away from the floor with those hands. I want you to take some awareness into your elbows, and if you can see me on the camera, I'm rotating them in and out. What I want you to do is rotate so that the meat of your elbow, that's this part, is facing towards the front of your mat. So if they're out, they're going to bend outwards. We don't want that. We want them to be facing forward, the meat of the elbow facing forward. So once you've found that position, you can do a half push-up here and begin to feel the elbows touching the side of the body. Maybe you need to adjust your hand placement a little bit. And just do a couple of push-ups here. We're going to do one push-up together where we hold it halfway down and our elbows will just barely touch our sides. So get in your position, exhale everything out, and on your inhale, go down to about halfway, holding it. Exhale back to tabletop. One more time, inhaling, holding it in a half plank. I guess this is a plank, but my knees are on the ground. And then come all the way down to your belly. Good job. Take one more inhale here. We're going to repeat that sequence where we push into cobra or up dog, back into tabletop and downward dog, and then back into plank. I'll guide you through it. So exhale everything out. Inhaling into half cobra or all the way into up dog. Exhaling into tabletop. Pressing back on the rest of the exhale into down dog. Rolling over on your inhale. back into tabletop. And on the exhale, pressing down to a half push-up, holding it here, down to the belly. Very good. So I want to do this another time or two. You can continue with that modification, or if chaturanga is part of your practice, you're more than welcome to do that too by eliminating the modification where the knee touches the ground. So exhale everything out. Inhaling into cobra or up dog. Exhaling into tabletop and moving to downward dog. Inhaling into plank or modifying with knees down. Exhaling into chaturanga, half plank. Exhaling all the way down to the ground. Good. We'll do that one more time. Exhaling everything out. Inhale into cobra or up dog. Exhaling, lifting with the hips into down dog. Inhaling into plank. Knees can come down if needed. Exhaling into chaturanga. All the way down to the ground. Very good. Take a quick child's pose here for a little bit of a break. If that was pretty intense on your shoulders, bring the arms around by your feet. And just rest. Come back up on all fours. I'm going to come up to kneeling. My right foot is going to come forward. I'm going to do a low lunge. Now, you might be super flexible and you can maybe come way down here, and you can. But I also recommend not doing that and staying lifted. Look for about a 45-degree angle on that hip. Arms come up overhead. This is really going to put the stretch in the front of the thigh and the hip flexor, which is it is so needed in this day and age for those of us that sit all day. So my hands are up over my head, slightly lifting back. And on the exhale, into half split, which means my hips come to the back, my front leg straightens. For more intensity, you can pull on that front left foot or flex it. On your inhale, shifting your hips back forward, foot is between my right and left hand, and I'm going to push up into low runner's lunge. So my back leg is now lifted and it's very straight and engaged from the glute to the hamstring. And begin to put the weight in your left arm as you rotate up to the right. And maybe you take your hand like a C, put it around the small of your waist, around your belly button, and try to pull that belly button up to your thigh. So again, I'm pressing through that shoulder, not collapsing, and then that arm comes up to the sky. If you're comfortable here, try one last trick. Squeeze those glutes together like you're squeezing your inner thighs and see if you can feel that movement in your hips. That'll let you get a little bit more rotation. Nice. Right hand comes down on the inside of the right foot, rotating that right foot out to about 2 o'clock. So I hope you can kind of see that on the camera here. And I'm going to come down to my forearms. You can also just stay here, but really what you're feeling is the opening of this right hip. So if you feel it here, stay, or you can come down to your forearms. Right now my back leg is extended. You can also bring that knee down into lizard lunge. Super great hip opener. It's one of my favorite poses. I feel like I could stay here all day. And if you do your fists in kind of a double bump here, you can rest your head on it. Awesome. From your forearms back to your hands, the right hand goes back outside the right foot, lifting that back leg. Make sure you're pretty good and balanced here, and we're going to lift our hands up into lunge, into crescent lunge. So back leg is super straight, sinking down as low as you can. Arms are lifted, shoulders are rolling down the back. Breathing into the intensity of this pose. On your next inhale, lifting up a bit. On the exhale, I'm going to drop the back left heel. So now my back toes are turned out a little bit towards about 10 o'clock. So I'm going to adjust a little bit. And I'm down into warrior one. So a couple checks here. Your knee, I can still see my toes beyond my knee, just a little bit. You don't want it to be going too far past your toes. My knee is also aligned with my middle toe. So check that you're not falling out or caving in. My left hip is trying to point forward. My back left leg is straight and strong. And my whole body is shaking. That's okay. It means it's working. So on your inhale, take a lift. On your exhale, float those hands down to either side of the feet. Straighten the front leg and pushing the hips back into pyramid pose. It's kind of like the half split we just did, but standing. With every exhale, the head comes a little bit closer to the ground or to your shin. Straighten the arms. Shift a little bit of the weight into the left side and begin to rotate up. You can use the same trick I just mentioned where you grab your waist and pull it up towards your thigh and extend that right hand up to the ceiling for revolved triangle. This often feels like a super awkward pose, so just try to find something that feels right. Maybe shift your weight around so that you feel like you can balance. But I'm using my left arm quite a bit to help here. You should also feel this in the front right leg out to the side. So whereas pyramid was underneath and the hamstring, now we've shifted to our IT band. Great for runners, bikers, and people who sit all day. Right hand comes down to the ground. Right leg bends. Back left leg is nice and straight. Coming up into back up into warrior one. We won't stay here long because we're going to open up our hips to the left side into warrior two on your exhale. Now I'm going to come out of it. I want you guys to stay in this pose, but I need to talk to you guys, so I'm going to come around to center. So if you're feeling like you're super tight, if you feel like you're leaning over like this, and you're kind of in your warrior doing that, if you look down, you'll see like a V here. You really don't want that. You want it to be straight. You want to be sitting up over and into that seat here in warrior. So if you're not able to do that, I see this a lot in class. That's really not great form. It's not very helpful for your body. I would recommend just standing up straight here and just practice feeling what it's like to open up these hips. I'm going to join you back in warrior two. I know you're feeling it. Rotate that right hand up to the ceiling and keeping this leg where it is, which should be low. I want you to lean back to the left, to the back. Inhaling back into warrior two, but passing through, right hand comes to the right knee, left hand comes overhead for extended triangle. Again, I'm going to pop over. You guys stay in that pose as best you can. You want to pretend like you're between two walls here, so that your shoulders are stacked over each other and you're extended and tilted as best you can. Okay, one more deep inhale. Also, next time you can try the extension all the way to the ground. Go ahead and bring that left hand down to the mat. Right foot goes back to meet the left, and the left foot comes forward. Right knee to the ground. We're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So starting in this kneeling position, 45-degree angle on that back leg, beginning to stretch the top of the thigh. Arms sweep up overhead. On your exhale, straightening the front leg, sending the hips to the back. Half split. Inhale, hips shift forward, back toes curl under, leg straightens into low runner's lunge. You can take your hand around your waist as you lift that shoulder to the left, arm extends up, easy twist. Check that you're fully pushing through that shoulder to try to rotate up to the sky. Left hand comes down to the mat on the inside of the left foot. The left foot rotates out to about 10 o'clock, opening up that hip. You can stay here, or you can bring your hands down to forearms, resting on your forearms. You can keep your back leg straight for a quadricep engagement and stretch, or bring that knee down to the ground. You can even take your left hand and just slightly apply some pressure to the left knee for a deeper hip opener. Both hands come back to the mat. Right toe curls under, pressing up into low lunge to bring that left hand on the outside of the left foot. Get your balance here, and on your inhale, we're lifting up into crescent lunge. So my hips are super straight, pointed towards the top of my mat here. On your exhale, sink a little lower. Good. You might also check in on your back heel. You really want it lifted. You don't want to be too far back here. You want to press that body weight forward to really activate the front quads. On your exhale, put that heel down behind you so your foot now rotates out to about a 60-degree angle there. Warrior one. So your hip's going to want to turn out. Pull it forward by rotating that thigh in the back. Really working the inner thigh on the back leg. Sink a little lower. Take an inhale, reaching back. On your exhale, bring both hands down to the mat, straightening the front leg and pushing back into pyramid pose. Crown of the head reaches to the floor. Shift the weight into the right hand, rotating the shoulders back to the left, raising that left hand, looking up at the left hand if you can into revolve triangle. Left hand comes down to the mat, left foot bends as we lift back up into warrior one on our inhale. On your exhale, opening up those hips to the side into warrior two. You may have saw that I shifted that front a little bit. That way, my heel and this front leg is intersecting the foot in the back. Warrior two. Your view is over these left fingers here. Checking in on your back posture and tilting those hips under if you can. Sinking down to the ground. One last exhale. On your inhale, flip that hand up. Right hand slides down the back as the left one comes overhead. Keep that front leg bent. If you lifted, come on down a little bit more. Really make that leg work. Inhaling back into warrior two, but really just passing through. Left hand comes to left leg. Right hand floats over the top. And I'm using my left hand to spiral my body up to the sky. modification to come all the way down to the ground. Super intense pose. Right hand comes down to the mat. Pressing back into plank. I'm going to have you walk your hands. Actually, let's stay in plank here. I'm going to have you do one more stretch here. It's called a wide forward fold. So if you saw how I did that, my feet just come out pretty, beyond hip width distance. We're just going to do one forward fold here. So the crown of my head comes to the ground, and I'm using my hands. Right now they're on my ankles. You can also do them right here in front of you on the floor. Just pull that head to the ground. Good. Rotate your heels in. So now I'm kind of in a squat position where my toes are pointed out. Just check to make sure that your knees are following your toe angle. And I'm in a squat here. So put your hands on your knees. I've kind of rotated my hands out here. I'm going to do a shoulder and a back stretch. And switching it to the other side. Coming back up into center. Good. And I'll stay in the center of my mat here. We'll do a couple balancing poses. So let's see, I'll see if I can face you guys. It's good to finally see you face to face. All right, so I'm gonna put my weight into my right leg and I'm lifting my left leg. And take my hands, wrap them around my knee. You can also do it underneath your thigh. I'm just gonna balance here. I'm gonna find that spot somewhere in front of me that's not moving. So I'm not gonna look at the camera because that'll make me fall. You can hold it here for an extension. You take your hands into a peace finger and use those two fingers to grab your big toe in yogi toe lock. Kind of hold it here and just practice what it feels like to hold yogi toe lock, or extend the legs to the front. I'm sorry, it feels like I'm giving you a close-up of the bottom of my feet. I promised I washed them before class, but yoga is a barefoot practice. So if you have toe lock, let go of it and hold it. If you're here holding your knee, extend the leg, so hold that leg up, hold. Ooh, super intense. Bringing it down, don't let it touch the ground, passing through the ground into airplane. So I'm in a letter T right now. Nice flat back. My lifted leg is nice and activated and straight. The base leg is too, but honestly you could also just bend that leg if it feels better and helps your balance. Woo. If your hands extend in front of you, you're in warrior 3. One more inhale. We'll try it on the other leg. So I'm going to shift my weight. I'm going to gather my breath here. So now I'm standing on the left leg, lifting the right. Really great opportunity to round out that ankle and stretch it too. Stay here, take a peace finger if you'd like, and move into yogi toe lock. And extending it out forward if that's part of your practice. And you can do this without straightening the leg. I don't know if you can tell, but my knee's kind of bent right now. And then when you're ready, then you work on straightening it. Couple more breaths here. If you're in toe lock, let go of it, but try to hold the leg up. If your leg is bent, extend it so you're out with us here. Hold it. I know it's falling, but go ahead and let it sweep to the back into airplane. If your arms come in front of you, you're in warrior 3. Good. Back up to center. Awesome job, guys. You're doing wonderful. I know it. Just a few more poses to go. Reach those arms up overhead. And then bring them down in front of you into a final forward fold. Let the head hang limp. You can even interlace the hands behind your head
Just ever so slightly pull down on that neck, decompressing the spine, or just leave your hands down on the ground if that feels better. So check it out. See if your legs are a little bit straighter than they were at the beginning of your practice. Hopefully they are. If so, that's progress. If not, try again tomorrow. Come on down to seated. Laying on your back here, I'm going to keep my heels close to my glutes, and we're going to push up into bridge pose. So we'll do that by putting the palms on the ground, hands on the ground, palms facing the ground, using them as leverage. And on my inhale, I'm going to lift my hips up as high as I can. I'm looking straight up head, straight overhead. My chin is tucked in. It might almost be touching my neck. Don't worry if you feel like you have a double chin. We all do in this pose. Press those hips up even more. Squeeze the inner thighs together. One more inhale and see if you can lift just a little bit more through those shoulders. Exhale, rolling back down. Oh, that feels so good. And take that right foot, I'm going to lift it. I'm going to bring the right ankle to the left knee. And I'm going to open up the right knee to the side of the mat. And then taking your hands, putting them behind or underneath your left leg. Pull that left leg into your chest. Thread the needle pose. Or we're threading the needle here to open up our hip. Good. Left leg comes to the ground, right one joins it. Now reverse it so that your left leg comes up, left heel touches the right knee, and then opening up that left knee. Then using your hands to pull the right thigh towards you. And my left elbow is pushing out on that left knee to get some leverage and really open up that hip. Also, I'm keeping the lower back on the mat. There's a tendency to kind of pull and crunch up. I just don't know that that's very good for your back. So I recommend keeping the small of the back on the ground. You still get a great hip opener here. Good. Release the legs and come into Shavasana. We've reached the end of our practice. Please stay with me for just a few moments more. We'll do some relaxation, and you totally have deserved it for making it through this class and for making it through the day. So I'm going to stay seated so that I can talk with you, but I want you guys, the rest of you, to lay on your mat. So I'm going to come to seated. You guys are in Shavasana. And just close your eyes here. Let your feet roll out to the side. Your palms are probably facing up so that they're in the most relaxed position on the floor. Scan your body. Note anything that feels tense or uncomfortable, and take in a nice, cleansing, gratifying breath. And on your exhale, send that breath to that part of the body. Help it relax. Eyes are soft, jaws open, lips are closed. Shoulders are relaxed and down, palms are open, glutes are relaxed. Everything is relaxed. Your toes feel heavy, sinking into the ground. The ankles feel heavy, sinking into the ground. The knees are heavy, sinking into the ground. The hips are heavy, sinking into the ground. The spine is heavy, sinking into
to the ground. The hands are heavy, sinking into the ground. The ribs are heavy, sinking into the ground. Shoulders are heavy, sinking into the ground. The head is heavy, sinking into the ground. The whole body is heavy, sinking into the ground. Just continue to lie there for another moment. Don't worry, I'll let you know when it's time. Begin to come back to your body. Wiggle your toes. Wiggle your fingertips. Remember where you are and come back to your mat. And when you're ready, roll over to your right side. If you're laying on your right side, using your right arm as a pillow or as a cushion. Just take one more moment laying on your side. And then take your left arm and use your left and your right arm to press your body back up to sitting. And join me in the center of your mat. I'm sitting in an easy pose, crisscross. Find what feels comfortable to you. I keep my eyes closed. Don't want to wake them up. Don't want to open them up to the world yet. And now that you're here in seated position, take one more stretch overhead. Reaching, reaching, reaching. And then exhale back down to center. Take your arms and give yourself a big hug, reaching them around. Showing your body some love. Showing yourself some love. And then opening your head, your arms overhead and opening them up to the world, sending your love out to those around you. Hands come to prayer position. Thumbs come to the third eye center at your forehead, symbolizing an open mind. Thumbs come to the mouth, symbolizing open communication. Thumbs come to heart center, signifying an open heart. The light and love in me salutes the light and love in each and every one of you. Namaste.